As usual, I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. Hopefully you are enjoying your day or your evening, depending on when you're watching this. I'm excited. I wanted to do something different for this video, and I hope you enjoy it. Hopefully it should get you thinking more like a native English speaker so you speak fluently. We'll give YouTube a moment again just to make sure people are able. I'm going to check, make sure we're working over here. And looks like, okay, we are live over here. All right, so hopefully we should be working. I will keep my eye on chat, and I don't think this will be a very long video, but we'll see. If you have any questions, feel free to put those in chat, and I will keep you there. Oh, there goes Roland. Nice to see you there. Hopefully you are doing well as well. All right, let's get right into it. So I wanted to talk about how people got fluent back in 1863, and hopefully this should be an interesting lesson for people. Nice to see you there, Kyle. I will try to go through my, hello, my great teacher from Korea. Let me know your name. I know you're, or give me some kind of name to call you, especially if you come, visit the channel frequently. It would be nice to know, since I can't read the Korean, I can't read your name. So let's get started. This is a story kind of about something happening back in 1863, and we imagine, I'm going to try to draw this a little bit for you to make it a bit more clear and memorable. So we have here's just like a dad. I would put a little cowboy hat on him, kind of, and his son over here. So dad and his son, they go off into their local town and they meet another guy. So this is kind of another an old guy. We're going to give him a beard. So back in their little town. And the two of them, the two adults, are talking, and the young boy is just listening to the conversation. And so this guy, he's actually reading a newspaper, and he's talking to the father about what's going on in the news. And so this is what they say. So the father, or the first person, actually, let me just erase these guys over here. I think you get the idea. It's pretty easy. So it's just the two adults talking. I'll move the son. I'll just put the son over here. So he's pretty little, maybe, I don't know, 6 years old, 7 years old, something. But he's just listening to the adults talking. He's not saying anything. He's just listening. And so the old guy is reading the newspaper, and he says, "Did you hear about," and we'll just say here, "John the Shadow Smith?" So the old guy says to the dad, "Did you hear about John the Shadow Smith?" And the dad says, let me put this in a different color for you, "You mean the famous bank robber?" So the old man says, "Did you hear about John the Shadow Smith?" So the Shadow is kind of like just like a nickname. Sometimes famous criminals or people, famous celebrities or famous athletes, they get some kind of nickname, something like this. So did you hear about John the Shadow Smith? So he's reading a story about this guy in the newspaper. And the guy and the father says, "Oh, you mean the famous bank robber, the famous bank robber." And so the boy's listening to this. And the old man responds, "Yes, he," or yes, with this, but yes, period, "he got snuffed out. He got snuffed out." And so the father responds to this. Make sure I can fit this in here. Just says, "Wow, he stole a lot of money." All right. So I wanted to put all this up here just to make it a little bit easier. Hopefully it's clear. It looks like it fits on the screen, but let me just go over this again. So the boy is listening to a conversation between his dad and this old guy in the town. So they are friends, they are just talking. And the old guy says, "Did you hear about John the Shadow Smith?" And the dad says, "You mean the famous bank robber?" And the old guy says, "Yes, he got snuffed out." And the dad says, "Wow, he stole a lot of money. He stole a lot of money." And that's it for the conversation. So the dad and the old guy go, they go their separate ways. And the son he doesn't quite understand what's happening here. So, "Did you hear about John the Shadow Smith? You mean the famous bank robber? Yes, he got snuffed out. Wow, he stole a lot of money." So the kid doesn't really know exactly what's happening. He's just listening to the information. And you may not understand everything that's happening either, but hopefully it should become clear in a moment. Now, we're going to move to the next scene. So later, this dad and his son are back home, so we'll erase the old guy over here. And they're about to go to sleep, and instead of them just sitting together, let me just redraw the second scene here very quickly. So we have the boy, we'll just put him in bed. So he's got the blanket up here, he's going to sleep. And the dad is walking, we'll keep the hat on him, and he's, saying goodnight to his son. And so by the table, there's a candle over here, just because it's, many years ago, 1863, and they had a little candle burning by the side of the bed. And the dad says, "Good night, son." So good night, well, we won't even bother to write that. We'll just say, "Good night, son. Be sure to snuff out that candle." So be sure to snuff out that candle. Make sure that fits on there. Yeah, I think it does. I think Dad is getting a little cut off over there. But be sure to snuff out that candle. We don't want to cause a fire. And so like the son understands from that example, we need to extinguish the fire in order to make sure we kind of stop the candle. So they're going to snuff out the candle over here. So in this example, this is the first time that the son has heard this expression. But he heard it twice in the same day. And so here we're getting two different examples of this. And so when the son hears the story, the first story or the first conversation between the old man and his father, he's just listening, but he doesn't really understand everything. He's getting all these pieces, but he can't really make the connection. So the old man says, "Did you hear about John the Shadow Smith?" And the dad says, "You mean the famous bank robber?" And then the old man says, "Yes, he got snuffed out." And then the father replies, "Wow, he stole a lot of money." So he stole a lot of money. So the father is just talking about that. So the father understood exactly what the old man said. The old man said the bank robber got snuffed out, and what he meant was he was killed in some way. So he didn't go into any detail about this, but the child heard the example, and when he first heard this, it wasn't really clear, because it's not clear from this context what it means. You don't really know, you just hear, "Did you hear about John the Shadow Smith? You mean the famous bank robber? Yes, he got snuffed out." If you don't know what snuffed out means, it's not clear what this could be. It could mean he got killed, or it could mean he got, arrested, or maybe something else, like he ran away, whatever. You don't really know for sure. So you're still a little bit uncertain when you hear this example. So just like the child was when he's listening to his father and this old man talking. And so we hear this example. It's only later, so the child puts this story, it kind of stored in his mind, and the child remembered that snuffed out expression. Like, that's kind of interesting. I don't really understand. He didn't ask his dad at the moment, but often kids, this happens to them. They might hear something in a TV show or read something somewhere, and they don't have anyone to ask. They just get the information, and they don't really know what to do with it. But they store that information, they hold that information, and then later, If they get another example or something that makes that information clear, then they have that little aha moment. It clicks in their head like, ah, now I got it. So when his father says, be sure to snuff out that candle, like we take our finger or put a little, like a candle snuffer and just cover it, so we extinguish the candle. You can think about the flame of a candle like that, just like the flame of a person, where we can just extinguish that. You know, if a bank robber, maybe they got shot by the police or something like that. So a person can get snuffed out just like a candle can get snuffed out. And so this is an example of how like a child back then would have discovered some kind of English just by hearing and understanding the context, even if they didn't just ask someone what something meant. Now, he could have asked his dad, hey, what does snuff out mean? And his dad could say, oh, well, he got killed or whatever. But even if you hear that example, snuffing out someone and killing them, it's not really clear to the child what the connection is. And so he gets the figurative understanding or the figurative use first. And this is often how people get language. It's not really clearly organized or put in certain steps that make it easy to understand. Often we get pieces of the language like this, and only later, sometimes, but not all the time, we get information that helps us make those connections, and that's what gives us the ability to speak. So at first, the child hears the story. He's hearing this back and forth from the old man and his dad. And again, he's uncertain about what exactly it means. But he becomes certain when he makes that connection, like, wait a minute, snuff out, like I'm actually snuffing out the candle. This is a physical example of this. And then from that physical example, he makes that connection that snuff out was used here, talking about killing some guy. Okay, so even without getting an explanation from his dad, he figured it out by himself by just making that connection. Is that clear? Hopefully that makes sense. So this is an example of somebody, you know, many years ago, over 100 years ago, thinking about how someone would learn a language. And the fluency develops through the understanding. The child did not go home and practice saying the word, like, okay, I got to repeat the word snuff out a bunch of times. He just got information, and it was unclear exactly what it meant, but he noticed something new. So he knew the rest of this. Like, did you hear about John the Shadow Smith? So the child maybe even knows who this person is, maybe not, but he understands the English. And then, you mean the famous bank robber? Yes, he got snuffed out. He got snuffed out. Wow, he stole a lot of money, says Dad. All right, so when we're looking at this, the first example, the child gets a piece of the puzzle, then he gets the second piece of the puzzle later, and again, most people are not learning the language in a very, or whatever the language is, they're not learning it in a very efficient way. So it's not like he's getting this first example and then getting this example over here. Often we just get these different pieces. But the important thing is that the certainty came when he was able to make that connection. And that certainty is what allows him to speak. Okay, so the idea when people are learning a language, it doesn't matter if it's 1863 or 2025 or 3048. Whenever people are learning, there might be different things. You'll see like a new app or something like that that enables people to learn, but the fundamental principle is unchanged. Okay, so the same way people got fluent back in 1863 is the same way people get fluent today, or the same way they will continue to get fluent in the future until maybe we get some matrix style thing where you can plug your head. I don't know, maybe Elon Musk will get the Neuralink thing and people can just download Chinese, and now just like Neo did in the movie The Matrix. But until that happens, this is how we're getting fluent. So the idea is, how quickly can we get to certainty? If the child had been given, let's say that the dad wanted to be explicit and really teach the child very quickly, he can say, look, I'm snuffing out a candle. And you could also snuff out someone's life in the same way. So if you kill them, you take their own flame away, like their own flame of life. And he might even say, there are other things you could snuff out too, like you might snuff out a rumor. So let's say people in a town, like in the town where they live, they're saying like, oh, this bad thing is going to happen, but maybe that's not true. And the father says, we need to snuff out this rumor, okay? So we could end this rumor or stop this rumor or snuff it out. It's like we just make sure we end that thing so it doesn't come back again, okay? So just like you're ending a life or ending the burning of a candle or ending a rumor, same kind of thing, we're snuffing that thing out, all right? So again, I want to just do a quick lesson just to demonstrate a point that the same things that people are doing, even without a language learning app or even before, even like way before the time of books or writing, people are understanding the language, they're making connections, and it's the understanding that lets people have that certainty to speak. Now, you can certainly speak without certainty. I guess that sounds a kind of funny sentence to certainly, you certainly can do it. Some people do feel comfortable speaking even if they're not sure that they're saying something correct, and that's fine. But a lot of people want to feel correct, and that correction or that feeling that they're going to speak correctly is what gives them the confidence to speak. All right, so if I can draw this example or just summarize this very quickly, make sure this fits up here too. We'll do it in red. So certainty. So certainty gives you confidence. And confidence lets you speak. Look at that, that fits. So everything I do is based on this simple idea. And this is the same way people have been getting fluent for, again, since however long we've been learning languages. The whole point is to understand something well. And it, like, again, notice that the child wasn't just getting a lesson in this. He wasn't translating anything. He wasn't trying to memorize a definition from a textbook. And he wasn't trying to repeat the phrase again and again. So he wasn't going home like, okay, let me repeat this 10 times and see if I can remember how to understand something. He got information, and even though the information was not presented in in the best way, and by the best way, I mean the most efficient way, the most efficient way would be to just give the child an example like this. So we begin with something physical because that's easier to understand, and then we get something more non-physical, like a figurative example, and so a child understands that, oh, you can snuff out a candle, you can snuff out a person's life, you can snuff out a rumor, you can snuff out anything. Like I might snuff out an idea that people have, like, you know, if I'm in a business meeting, and these are things people use nowadays. You know, snuff out is still an expression that people use. So even if we're using it, you know, from many years ago, a lot of vocabulary is still used today. And I've given many examples of that. But all of this, like, you know, this is the same English people have been speaking for many years. But you might have, maybe in a business meeting today, you have, I'm giving some questions or something and asking people for ideas, and one person says, hey, here's an idea for this. And I say, nah, that's not going to work because of this. So I give a very quick reason why something might sound like a good idea, but it's actually not a good idea for this reason. So I quickly snuff out that example. Okay, so just like I'm snuffing out a candle, maybe you've seen this, I'll draw a bit more of a detailed picture for you. Let's say we have, here's our candle, and it's got the flame on it, you know. So a candle, little snuff thing, sometimes it's just like a kind of, like a little, almost like a little cup, kind of like the cap on this marker. So if you can imagine this candle, this marker is a candle, I'm going to snuff it out like that. So if I remove the oxygen, that's the end of the candle, all right? Or at least the end of the flame on the candle, all right? So that's the idea, and I really wanted to make this clear because you will continue to hear things every year. People are like, here's how to get fluent in 2024. Here's how to get fluent in 2025. Here's how to get fluent in 2026. Now, again, there might be new ways of kind of tactically delivering this information, but that's the idea. The same way that people get fluent is the way we will continue to get fluent. It's the way we have gotten fluent for many, many years, okay? Are they scamming us? Well, I mean, you have to understand when people are making content, especially for YouTube, like The brain is naturally excited about new information. So people want to know, okay, what's new? So I thought, okay, let me just make kind of a silly video. This video may not be very popular, but the people who will watch it will get the idea. They will get the message like, I really just need to eliminate whatever uncertainty I have, and that's what's going to help me speak. Now, related to this, I had somebody ask me a question in a YouTube comment, I don't know, I think yesterday, that I responded to. But it was saying, just by getting multiple examples, that helps you speak. I don't understand how that works. Like, is that magic in some way? And hopefully this example shows you this is not a magic trick. It's really just about feeling certain about what you say. So until you are certain about your English, you're not going to feel confident about speaking. And the problem with most ways of learning is that they don't make you certain. They actually create more confusion. So, for example, if you learn a language through a translation, you're adding this additional step, which actually requires you to think about translations or grammar rules or hesitate or worry about your pronunciation. All of those things happen because you don't really feel certain about what you're saying. So if you're uncertain, just like me as a native English speaker, if there's a word I want to say or write, like I physically have to write it, and I think, wait a minute, I don't know how to spell elephant. Like, I don't know how, maybe I should use a different word or something like that, because I'm unsure, I'm uncertain about how to say something. But when I am certain, I can write the word like, E-L-E-P-H-A-N-T, and I can spell the word elephant and use it with confidence. So it's the same way that anybody would learn even things in their own language or things in a different language. It doesn't matter to the brain. What the only important thing is, do you feel certain about what you want to say, all right? So when you're learning, however you're learning, whether you learn with me or my videos or more my programs or whatever, however you're learning, this is the goal. And the faster you get to certainty, the faster you can speak. That's the basic idea. All right, again, I promised this would be a quick video, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to post them below. It could be about this or anything else, but let me know. But hopefully this basic idea makes sense. The key to speaking is not even trying to speak first. You could, you don't have to, but you will feel a lot better if you feel certain about what you want to say, because certainty gives you confidence, and confidence lets you speak. All right, let me go back through questions and comments, see if anybody has anything they'd like to know. All right, let's see. Tom says, hello, Renee, greetings from Brazil. Let's see, Aheni. Oh, that's your name. Okay, all right, well, thank you, very nice. All right, that's an interesting name. Azar says, hello, everyone. Vincent, nice to see you. Drew, hi, Drew is 2.45 here in South Africa. Oh, you mean 2 in the morning? I'm excited to wake up and found you live, making us better. Well, it's a better version of ourselves. Well, it's my pleasure to help. Again, I'm just trying to give people certainty about their English so they feel more confident about speaking. And you can see I'm giving you basically an understandable message just in English. So I'm helping you understand English in English, and that gives you a lot more certainty than learning English through another language. So if you learn through translations, you will usually feel, I don't know if this meaning is exactly what I think it is. So you might hear an example somewhere, but not really feel very confident about using it. So the whole idea is, how can we give you certainty? And the best way to do that is with these kind of understandable messages. You can understand English in English the same way a native does. So when you understand the language like a native, you will think and speak like a native as well. It's pretty easy. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Let's continue. Here, Ricardo says, hello everyone, the last stream was a masterpiece. I'm glad you enjoyed it. If you did, do click the like button and please share the video. Let me know if you have any questions about it as well. Hiroto says, hi from Uzbekistan, and Leo from Pakistan, a CY High teacher, tuna and salmon together, both watching, very lovely. I love Japanese, glad to hear it. And Alexander says, Brazil here, Tara, good morning, sir. Tsubasa, Ohio. Gozaimasu, nice to see you there. Brittany, yay, ready to learn from the best. You guys are too kind. Tsubasa says, Drew is the one and only. Yes, well, there's only one Drew. Hopefully that's a good thing. Brittany says, I started my piggy bank to get your course Fluent for Life. Well, glad to hear it. Your piggy bank, all right. Yes, maybe you can get like a sponsorship or something. And Abdul Rahim says, sir, watching you from Sudan. Look at that, people all over the place. All right, more Korean. I cannot read. Hello, teacher. When I try to think in English without translating from my native language, I can visualize concepts I've personally experienced, but how can I do this with abstract ideas? So this is what I've just given here is the same idea of understanding something abstractly. Typically, when learners, and this is a difference between how children learn and how adults learn, like I was explaining this to my kids before about when we use a term, I think I shared this in the last video actually, like hang up the phone. When I tell this to a child, so let's say my young daughter, like who's 6 years old, so Noelle is on the phone and I say, hey, can you hang up the phone? So we're finished with the conversation, I say, hang up the phone. Now I'm saying that to her and she's really just making the connection between hang up and the action of ending the phone call. And she basically accepts my language. When I say hang up the phone, she just thinks, oh, okay, hang up the phone is just what we say in this situation. So as a child, she just accepts this. Now, an adult might hear this, especially if they know hang already, they might be confused and think, why are you saying hang up the phone when you're pushing a button to end the phone call? And they require a little bit more explanation and history, and this gets to the idea about understanding more abstract terms. But typically, if you can understand at least some things more physically first, like the idea of physically hanging up a phone. Many years ago, there would be a phone. I would be talking with someone on a, what we call this part, the receiver. So I have the receiver. There's a little cord going to usually a phone hanging up on the wall, just like I had when I was younger. And after you're done, you hang the phone back up on the wall again. So this is before wireless phones, before portable phones. I feel old now that I can talk about this. But again, that same kind of thing where we're hanging up the phone, you're physically doing it, and now we take that same vocabulary and apply it where we're not even hanging anything physically, but everybody uses that language, all right? So to answer your question, I'm sorry that was a little long, but I wanted to give that, hopefully that's helpful for you. But when people talk about how they understand more abstract things, if you're, it's kind of like building a building, and maybe I can erase some of this over here. So if I'm making a building, we usually build a building from the bottom and work up like this. And so we understand a physical thing typically before we can understand a more abstract or figurative use of a word. And so here in this example, I wanted to do the opposite because that's often how people learn. We're usually not getting the right examples exactly when we need them and in the right order. So that's how I teach. I really want to make sure people understand things as quickly as possible. And it's easier usually if we begin with something like a physical example, something you can see. So we have the candle example first, and then we build on to the more figurative use of snuffing out a life. But here in this example, we've got the opposite. So we're almost building the building from the top and then working back down, which obviously is much more difficult to understand. So if you have trouble understanding any kind of non-physical things or more abstract ideas, try to get more, at least if you can, make some kind of connection to a physical use of that same vocabulary, or at least make sure you're understanding just conceptually the situation where something is being used, okay? So if I hear, maybe you can give me some specific examples if there are like some words or expressions that you have trouble with. But yes, a physical thing is going to be easier, usually because you can see it or see how it works. But if you want to understand maybe more figurative things first, sometimes, especially as an adult, you really have to build that foundation first, and then that's what helps you understand this example. So you might need to get additional examples of something, maybe some more physical ones, or if you at least get some examples of like this thing happening in this situation. But typically, if the first example is not clear, a second example, a third example, a fourth example, get as many examples as you need to make something clear. So this one, hopefully with just 2 examples, I've made you certain about what snuff out means. And maybe you're not 100% 100% certain about it, but the point is you understand how this works. So again, if you're learning, especially as a teacher, you really should give the simpler physical example first and then the other example. But often what happens in real life, we will hear things in movies or TV shows and we just think, oh, like I don't actually understand what that means. And later, we make that connection where we learn something. Okay, now I get it. You have that aha moment. So when you're trying to learn, if you can get those aha moments as quickly as possible, if you eliminate any uncertainty, you will become a fluent speaker faster. All right, let me know if that example makes sense, but that's the basic idea. So either try to get more examples or at least try to connect things with more physical uses of vocabulary, and usually you have examples of that. Jeremy says, I learned pronunciation on YouTube and people think that I sound like a native, but I'm not confident and I get stuck and I run out of things to say. Okay. So it sounds like your pronunciation is good, but your ability to speak is not so good. I'll give another example of this just because I think this would be useful for many people to know. I have, I think, a few videos about this on my channel, but I call it the English Fluency Profile. I'll give you a very simple example of it. So if I draw, it kind of looks like a stop sign a little bit. When people ask me, or they say to me, hey Drew, I can understand you very well. I understand every word you're saying. Does that mean I'm fluent? And I would say, no idea. I can't really give you an answer about that just from like reading a comment, but hopefully this will make it a little bit easier. So the basic idea is you have a variety of skills that work together. I'm not going to list them all here. I've done that in other videos, but the point is you can have, let's say, I'll just put P here for pronunciation. L here for listening, G here for your ability to use grammar, V for vocabulary, etc., etc. How much confidence you have. So like all of these things, all of the guides I have, all of the videos I make are about these different things. And so often what people have is, like in your case, you've got really good pronunciation. It's like if people are saying you sound like a native, like that's great, especially if that's a goal you have to sound like a native. Some people don't care about sounding like a native, that's fine, as long as you're clear and people understand what you're saying. But again, you could have like really good pronunciation, but you could actually have a very low vocabulary. And you don't have enough words to express yourself. Often people, this is not their problem. Most of the people I help, their vocabulary is actually very good. And the issue is more, we'll just put a C over here for confidence. Confidence is very low, all right? And so just like the example I gave with snuffed out, we're looking at the actual profile of a person, and each one of these skills, we'll just put these at different levels. And what people often forget, or maybe they've just never heard of it, is your weakest skill here is what controls your ability to speak. So your level of fluency is actually at this level. So it doesn't matter if you know like 2,000, 10,000, 30,000 English words. If you lack confidence, you won't be able to speak. So your ability to speak is actually controlled by your weakest skill. Okay, so again, a lot of people, they have various skills. So the people I help, maybe some of them are good at listening, but bad at pronunciation. Other people have the opposite problem. It's just different people have different things. So we want to improve all of those skills in the same way by giving them certainty. So you give them certainty about pronunciation, you give them certainty about grammar, certainty about vocabulary. Certainty is the key to all of it. Because again, when you're certain, you feel confident and you can speak. So often people lack confidence even though they have more vocabulary. So you can see the problem here for many people. They think that, okay, I don't know enough words, that's why I can't speak. So they continue trying to learn more and more and more and more vocabulary, but the confidence doesn't change. And the confidence is what we call the bottleneck. So we'll just put a bottle up here. I'll draw a bottle for you. And this is the neck of the bottle. So this is the whole bottle here, but we have the neck of the bottle, and the bottleneck is this flow right here. So your ability to actually communicate is controlled by this flow. So even if you put a lot of water in here, it's controlled by how quickly, or whatever the size of the neck is. So this is the bottleneck in your ability to speak. So here, confidence is the bottleneck in your ability to express yourself. All right. So depending on where you are, like if your pronunciation is good, you don't need to focus on that anymore because you already sound great. Focus on something else. Think about what is actually the weak skill you have and focus on that. All right. So if you feel like a lack of confidence, some people feel very confident, but they just don't know very many words. All right. There could be different things depending on you, and each person has their own individual English fluency profile, but this is the basic idea. So if you know a lot and your pronunciation is good but you lack confidence, that usually means you know the words but you don't really have certainty. You don't own those words like a native speaker. So you might have translated or studied a lot of vocabulary. Maybe you get vocabulary books or you memorize the dictionary or whatever, but that doesn't give you fluency unless you have certainty in the vocabulary. Okay, so don't think about learning more. Often, maybe some people do need to learn more vocabulary, but most of the people I help, they can understand my videos, so it means they already know a lot of vocabulary. The problem is not here, the problem is over here, or it could be someplace else, but you get the idea. So think about the specific skill, and again, what you're talking about, having good pronunciation, but not being able to continue speaking, that's probably because you lack certainty about how to actually have conversations, all right? So this is the kind of thing we teach like in Fluent for Life, or what I do in these videos as well. But think about that. So remember the specific skill, or whatever think about the actual problem you have. And instead of focusing on something else that's probably not going to give you much improvement because it's not the real problem, you need to focus on the thing that is. So if you feel unconfident or you're not sure about your vocabulary, focus on that. All right, let's see here. And Azar says, I got a teacher. Thanks, Cowboy. Peck says, hi, teacher. I would like to know how you would teach English to someone who is a beginner. I would give them Frederick. So if you click on the link in the description below this video, Frederick is both for beginners, so absolute beginners who don't know any English at all, but it's also for even adults who want to understand the language more like a native and improve their pronunciation and listening. But the basic idea is that I can teach you English all in English so you feel certain from the very beginning. So that's the whole idea of the app. Often what I do in these videos is me giving you aha moments where you think, okay, now I understand something, now I feel certain about it. But I built Frederick, the app, because I wanted that to actually give you the chance to develop certainty yourself. So when you discover things, you own that instead of even me teaching you something. When you think, like this pronunciation and this pronunciation, or this word and that word, if we change how things work, you can understand how pronunciation and grammar and all of that work together. But you discover that and you give yourself certainty. You can also use our beginning English grammar playlist here on YouTube, and it takes people through English in the same way. Often when you begin teaching people English, lessons will have greetings, like a self-introduction as the first thing you learn, like, hello, my name is, I'm trying to write this quickly, you already know what this English is. So my name is something. And if you look at this English, it's actually quite complicated for people. So if I just begin, like I just start teaching you Japanese and I just say like, hajimemashite, and I just like give you a whole bunch of Japanese, you're like, okay, I'm doing like a self-introduction. But you all know what this English is. So it's clear, like you've made those connections already. But a completely new person, like a child learning the language, it's like, my name is something. They don't have any idea what that means, all right? So they understand their name, like my name is Drew. And so I can repeat something and try to force myself to remember that, but if you watch that beginning grammar playlist, also, if you use Frederick, you will not find self-introductions at the beginning of the app because that doesn't really help you understand anything. So instead, if you watch that beginning grammar playlist, the first thing I do is I'm just teaching singular and plural. It's like I, eyes, ear, ears, nose, eye, eyes, ear, ears. And in that way, you can teach someone English all in English and they feel much more certain about it. They're like, ah, I get it. So this would be different from Japanese. It's like me, me. I mean, I could say like me tachi or something like that if I wanted to make it sound more, I don't know, like trying to really explain it to people. But in Japanese, the plural works differently than it does in English. And so that's something that I don't need to explain it to you. I can just show you how it works. And so when you discover it, again, the whole idea is that you feel certain about the language. So if you're trying to either help yourself understand English like a native, so you feel certain about using it, get Frederick, or either use it again for yourself or someone else, like a child or even an adult who wants to learn the language. I think many adults, they look at the app and think it's for kids, but the whole point is that it's supposed to be different from the typical textbooks people use because they aren't actually helping you get fluent. All right, so again, don't worry about how the app looks. It's supposed to look like a game and feel like a game because when you play it, it is like a game in that way. You discover things, you test out different letter combinations and see what they do. And you discover how to use the language like a native and you become much more certain and confident when you speak. So again, it will improve your pronunciation, your listening, your vocabulary. There's lots of even short vocabulary, like a few letters, like 3 or 4 letters in the app that most people watching this video would not know. But a lot of people enjoy the app and they are surprised by how well it works. But the principle is the same thing I did here in this video where I'm talking about snuffing something out. So if I can teach you something in the right way, if I can organize information just like I do in Fluent for Life or what I do in Frederick, it's all giving you certainty, which makes you feel very confident because now there's nothing stopping you from speaking. All right, let's continue again here. And the Sherpa from Nepal, let's see, from South Korea at times says, Dear teacher, I would like to know why did not make podcasts for listening practice. You can just listen to these videos if you like. I did make podcast episodes before, but it's more helpful for people. This is basically a podcast. I mean, you can listen to it if you want to, but most people are going to improve better if they can also see what I'm talking about. And that's why I use examples. I draw pictures of things, even if the pictures are not very good. So if you just want a podcast, close your eyes and there you go. You have your podcast right there. Natural World says, I have a problem during speaking English, which is that I translate from the words I want to speak from my native language into English while speaking. Is there a technique to solve this? Yes, it's called understandable messages, and this is what you do when you learn English in English. So the example I gave you before, or even the one I just gave you right now, like eye, eyes, ear, ears, nose. Maybe I have like 2 noses, that kind of thing. So the idea here is that if you understand English in English, then you can speak like a native, because what would stop you? You would understand everything. So if you stop learning through translations, you will stop speaking through translations. If you learn in English, you speak in English. It's a pretty simple thing. I think it's a frustrating thing for many people because most English lessons, like most English classes in school, they are not designed to help you speak. They are designed to get you prepared for a written test, usually. So the teacher says one thing and they give you a translation of that, and then you just have to remember that and write it down on the test. So it doesn't matter if you're able to speak or if you have like complete certainty about your English, because that's not the goal of those lessons. This is why most people don't know about the kind of stuff I teach, because it's just new for people who don't, most lessons just don't teach that way. So that's why it's new for most people. But once you make the switch to learning English as a first language or understanding it like a native and just, again, it's just English in English. So if you can understand English in English instead of understanding English through translations, you will feel certain and you will speak. You will stop translating, you will understand things very well. You will feel like, wow, I actually get it, because you're removing all of the stuff that actually prevents you from speaking. So follow this advice. I highly recommend it. If you don't want to speak through translations, then learn everything in English. Let's see, what did I Did I miss anybody? Oh, okay, Tuck says, one question here. How do you use the word engage? It depends on situations though. Well, again, whenever people ask me about a particular word, I would just say, when are you using it? So often the word by itself, it doesn't really help to try to learn like a meaning of a word by itself, because word meanings change depending on the situation. I could like engage a machine where I'm activating it or I'm using it, or I could become engaged with a, like, you know, my wife or whatever, you know, we get engaged and then we get married. So it's like we're connecting or we're hooking up in some way. That's typically what engage something means. So rather than trying to think about a definition of it, when you get a range of different examples, often they help you understand the core meaning, or if there are many core meanings or more than one core meaning, you will really understand those much better. But the point is to eliminate that uncertainty by actually connecting that word with situations. All right, so just the word by itself doesn't really help you. And that's why if you get a translation of a word, that really just makes things more difficult for people. So you're connecting a word in your native language, you're trying to use that to connect it with something in English with the information you already know. But it's much easier just to make those connections directly in English, all right? The difficulty is just getting the understandable messages by yourself. That's why I make these videos, to show people how to do this. And of course, I just do it for you in Fluent for Life. And you can also play around with the language and discover these things yourself in Frederick. But all of these are based on the same idea. So rather than thinking like, what does a word mean? Think about words in situations. When you get those examples in English, remember, in English is the important thing. If you want to be able to speak fluently, thinking through translations, that's going to stop you from speaking fluently. It just means, like, if you need a translation to understand a word, it means you're uncertain about the word. So remove the uncertainty, you remove that block to communication, and then communication flows naturally. So you were born to speak, as I like to say. You were naturally designed to speak, and that's why you speak. But if you have a block that stops you from communicating, then communication becomes much more difficult. Arab says, hi, and Brittany says, how can I understand which one is correct? I pick up your nose or pick your nose. I tried to use it to tell my mom not that cause it's disgusting. I see. Now, here is another example where, like, this is the same way Frederick works, where you're taking, and what I do for my learning, there are really some very simple principles that I'm using to give people aha moments, those moments of understanding where you think like, now I got it. All right, so let me show you the difference, like just kind of very simply here. You can imagine, this doesn't stick, unfortunately. I don't have a, let's see here. I don't think I have any magnets. Oh no, yeah, I don't have any magnets today. Usually there's some kind of magnets, but yeah, I don't have any magnets today. We'll just have to imagine it. I have a different eraser today. But let's just make this a very simple exercise for you, or a simple example. So I will draw a face over here, and here's the mouth like that. And here is a, I don't know, kind of nose. You can imagine it like sticking out. I'm trying to draw it so you can see it. Does that make sense? Can you see it from that angle? Just imagine it sticking out like it's coming off of my own nose. So if I hear an example, I'll write down the two. I think you had, what was that? Let's see, pick up your nose or pick your nose. Okay, so pick up or pick. So often when you're hearing it, again, the point is not to just think about the vocabulary, it's the vocabulary in context. It's the vocabulary in a situation. So in this situation, I'm going to pick up my nose. Look at that, I picked it up. I picked it up, it's like I'm choosing it and I'm lifting it up like that. I'm picking it up to pick up my nose. But here I'm like kind of picking at it, like scratching it. So a pick, if you can think about like a pickaxe, if there's a, you know, a little guy, he's digging in a tunnel, so we can imagine him working over here and he's got a little like pickaxe, you know, I'll draw a bigger picture of it. For those kids, those young people that play Minecraft, you know what this is. This is a pickaxe, so you're kind of picking like that to to move through the dirt. So this guy is digging over here as he gets through the dirt. He's using a pickaxe. So I can pick my nose in the same way. Oh my goodness, I'm really picking my nose over here. That's a little bit embarrassing to pick my nose. So here we have pick as in like I'm using like a pick like that, like I'm kind of digging into something. But pick can also mean to choose, all right? So remember, we're trying to get the vocabulary connected for a particular situation. So we pick something, and then we're actually talking about picking, like I'm scratching something like that, like scratching the inside of my nose. So here I'm picking my nose, and over here I am picking up my nose. So I can't really pick up my nose. I can't take my nose and remove it from my face. I mean, I guess I could, but in this case, we can. Here I pick up my nose, and here I'm picking my nose, all right? So when you have a concern about something like this, sometimes it's very useful, just like I'm doing here, to get examples where you can contrast some different things. Like if I'm teaching, or you're teaching yourself pronunciation in Frederick. So if we have 3 different examples like this, what people usually do for pronunciation is they will just focus on one word, like one random word like this, but it's much better to compare these things: bug, bag, big. All right, so I'm just showing you how the pronunciation is a little bit different just by changing one letter. Same idea as this. Instead of pick, I have pick up, okay? So when you hear it, like after you realize what's happening, like I'm not like picking up, like I'm not moving anything up in any way, but I am picking my nose like that. I'm picking my nose. Does that make sense? Does that give you certainty and clarity? All right, hopefully it does. If anyone else was uncertain about these kinds of things, or you're uncertain about pronunciation, you can see all of these lessons work in the same way. Whether you're using Frederick or Fluent for Life or just watching my videos here, that's the idea. It's to make sure you can understand using simple principles that work with your mind, that help you understand the language like a native. Okay, so I'm not giving you translations. I live in Japan, but I don't teach Japanese speakers like through Japanese, because that wouldn't really help them speak English. It would teach them the language, but I'm not here to help you learn English. I want you to speak, or at least, you know, for the people who watch my videos, that's the idea. It's not just about learning English. Anybody can just learn some English and memorize some words or expressions, but the people who actually become fluent are the ones who feel certain about their words, okay? So if you do not feel certain about your words, this is how we help, and these are the kinds of examples that do that. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, a couple other questions here. All right, I got that one. Tom, nice to see you there. Morning. Tom says, I have trouble pronouncing my full name in English. Could you help me to pronounce it to properly American English? Well, I don't know how to pronounce it just by reading it. I would say like Etom Herman. I don't know, I guess. It depends on like how you pronounce it. And like the correct pronunciation would be your pronunciation, not my pronunciation. Thank you, teacher. That was really helpful. Sorry for Korean nickname. It's Shine from Korea. Or if you mean Shine, or if you mean Shine, maybe, hopefully not Shine. That's Japanese, but let's see, Shine, I'm guessing if it's Shine. As it says, natural, I had the same problem, but it became less. Try listening a lot, and you will know that there are words used in several sentences, so you will not need to translate them literally. Yes, again, hopefully I've given you examples of how quickly you can do this. So I'm not recommending just go listen to random information like people talk about comprehensible input. The goal is not just to get input. The whole point of the input is certainty. So if I can help you understand something with one piece of input, then great. If I need 2 or 3 examples, then that's fine too. Sometimes you need more than that, but don't do this randomly. You want to make sure that people are like they have a specific problem and they're able to get their questions answered about it, so they feel certain as quickly as possible. So this is why we organize Fluent for Life, Frederick, the same way. It's to make sure you feel certain about what you're learning. Let's see, Tom says, totally agree. And Sky August has a nice name. How can I feel certain with my pronunciation? I want to say a sentence. Should I think in my head first which words need to be stressed? I've tried doing that, but I couldn't do it very well. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work, like trying to organize sentences or think about how you should say them before you speak. Just start with individual words like this. Just get Frederick. It will train you to do that automatically. So you don't have to make it complicated. You don't have to study stress or whatever. Just listen to real examples of people speaking. But here's the important part. Do it systematically. Don't just listen to random information and hope that you're going to understand and let you organize that. It's just like the example I gave at the beginning of this video, where we have a child listening to some English and they don't really understand what it means. They understand it later, luckily, because they got another example of the word or the expression snuff out in the same day, but often that's quite rare for people. A child might hear something and years later, they will get an example that helps them make those connections. It's kind of like seeing an actor in a movie, and when you're young, you don't know who it is. But when you're older, you're like, oh wow, look at that. That's that same actor I saw like 20 years ago. And look, it took 20 years to make that connection. And often this is what happens when people start learning in English. They're just getting lots of random input, and slowly they start making these connections. But it's much faster and easier if you do it in a systematic way. All right, so you want to give your brain the information it needs to make those connections, and then the brain will do all the work for you. All right, Juma says, thanks, teacher, great job. Brittany says, Drew, how can I stop being worried while being silent, trying to get input? I get anxious because I think I need to speak and not be silent. Well, just remember that the idea is certainty. That's it. You don't have to think about speaking or doing anything else. It's just, what is the particular problem I have? And you should just prove this to yourself with a single example. So try to get an example where you feel more confident about something, like I'm doing here with the pick versus pick up. You didn't say anything to me. Well, maybe you did, but I didn't have a conversation with you about this. And hopefully, if I gave you a good example that was clear, if it erased your doubt, then you should feel more confident about using it. All right, so that's an example of a time when you don't speak, but you still become more fluent. So just remind yourself of that, like, hey, I actually got an example and I didn't feel nervous about it. Like I felt more certain and confident about what I was hearing. And that's what allowed me to speak. So it's a really weird thing that through probably many years of English education in schools, you're learning to memorize usually translations for tests, and sometimes you have to speak, like the teacher will just say, okay, everyone repeat after me, hello, my name is, or this is a pen, or whatever you're learning. But when you get into the real world and you actually need to speak, you need to start making those connections. But just remember that the process is like this. Speaking is the end of that. Okay, so like when I tell people, when I first started teaching over 20 years ago, I was in the classroom and I had to do that same kind of thing, like hey, okay, everybody stand up and now we're gonna repeat after me. Like I did that because I had to do it for the school I was teaching. But I felt, wait a minute, this is kind of a stupid thing to do. Like forcing someone to speak is not making them a confident speaker. It's like if I tell you, like, I hold a gun to your head and I say, hey, you have to believe something or I will kill you, you're not really believing that information. It's just like, okay, yes, I believe what you're telling me to believe. So if I force you to speak, or I will give you a bad grade in a classroom, then people are going to be upset with me, or they may not show it, but they will not become very confident speakers. But if I can be a good teacher and give people certainty first, then they will feel confident and the speaking will naturally follow. Because what would stop you from speaking? Like what would stop you at that point? If you feel certain, that means you can speak. If you cannot speak, it means you're not certain. Okay, so like these two things work together perfectly. It's like if you know something, but you're like, I know that word, but I'm unsure about the pronunciation. There's still some kind of uncertainty there. Remove the uncertainty, learn the correct pronunciation, and then you will feel certain and confident and you will speak. Okay, so that's why I make these videos where I'm showing you how to do things and I'm giving you certainty so you feel more confident about speaking. So I'm not telling you to go out and practice speaking with people, and that's actually a very slow way to improve because you have to find good people, you have to schedule some kind of time, you have to actually make that time where you're speaking. So most people are not spending very much time speaking anyway. I mean, even if that's their goal, they're trying to, maybe they use an app and they try to speak to the app or talk to AI or whatever. You could do all of that, but it's much faster and easier to just give yourself certainty first because that's the real roadblock. That's the bottleneck. That's the real problem that stops people from speaking. And so most lessons make you feel less certain, all right? They make you feel less sure. They give you more questions, more confusion, and you learn through a translation and you think, wait a minute, I don't actually understand what I'm saying, so I have to think about translations in my head, and that's what causes all the problems. But if you can feel certain, and you just do that very simply in English, if you get good examples, what I just call understandable messages, it's very easy like that, okay? So don't make this complicated. I know it seems like it should be a complicated thing because people spend a lot of time in traditional lessons learning, but it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to take a long time. That's just what most people's experience, unfortunately. But the good news is I'm here to help. So whether you learn with me or not, make sure you get that certainty, and I promise you will feel much more confident about speaking. All right, Phoebe says, thanks for your comments. They give me confidence to speak English. Glad to hear it. I got the aha moment right now. Glad to hear it. All right, I gained confidence in English. Yes, so if you feel confidence, like you can feel confident before you speak. That's what I teach. All right, so instead of speaking first to feel confident, you feel confident before you speak. Isn't that like a much nicer thing? I know for me, as a language learner, I'd rather be in a conversation and feel confident than think, okay, like now I have to force myself to speak and I'm going to have more difficulty expressing myself because I'm not really confident. So lots of people try to force themselves to speak, just, okay, work through the mistakes and it's okay and you can do it. Like that's, I think, very bad advice for most people. There are some people who can follow that advice and that's great, but for me as a teacher, I'm doing a bad job if I'm sending you into conversations unprepared. Okay, so if I don't give you certainty, I'm doing a bad job. That's not your fault, that's my fault. All right, let's see, let's see. Priyanthi says, good morning, sir. How is everything going on? Your teaching method is excellent. Have a great day. God bless you. Thank you very much. Priska says, please help me. Oh my goodness, how can I help? Jeremy says, I'm looking for a study buddy. No, don't look for a study buddy. Just get certainty. That's all you need. There's lots of content available. You don't need to waste time looking for people or spend time talking with people. Just get certainty. So looking at this, like get certainty first. You will feel confident, and then it's very easy to practice speaking because you feel confident. So you could try to do the opposite, but doing it kind of in the backwards way of speaking first, and then trying to get confidence and then trying to get certainty from that is a much, much more difficult way to learn. Much more difficult, and it's going to take you a lot more time. Jeremy says, again, by the way, do you think it is important to take online lessons with an online teacher instead of spending countless hours by yourself trying to figure out how to speak fluent English? Well, those are kind of two different, it's not like an either or between those two things. So the first example is you're talking about spending time with an online teacher. What I recommend is getting lots of different examples of natives, because even if you spend time with one teacher, they are going to speak more slowly, more clearly, and they're not going to sound like the natives that you hear in the real world or in movies. So it's kind of like preparing for a real sports game by getting good practice with the people you would play with, or rather than like talking to a teacher. And a teacher can help you, but if your goal is to become a confident speaker, even me, I don't offer private lessons because even though like many people ask for them, it would get you to a good level of understanding, but you really need examples of lots of other people speaking, not just me. So this is why I put all that in Fluent for Life. It gives people everything they need, and you don't need to depend on, okay, here's my 1 hour this week with a teacher, or even if you get an hour every day with a teacher. You can get fluent much faster by just getting those examples yourself. Now, the other thing you're saying here about spending countless hours trying to figure out how to speak fluent English, you don't have to do that either. I'm just showing you exactly how to do it. Pick a thing you're interested in and get certain about it. So whatever you're interested in talking about, like let's say you like cooking, watch a bunch of YouTube videos about cooking a particular dish. Make it simple, make it specific, make it focused. That way you're getting lots of good information about that thing. And the whole point is to give yourself certainty so you speak. All right, so you don't need to spend a lot of time with online teachers, and you don't need to waste a lot of time trying to figure out how to learn. It's just this. Certainty gives you confidence, which allows you to speak. That's it. Taco again, how can I do it if I don't grab the meaning of the word, though I get multiple examples by using English, especially abstract word is hard to understand for me. Yes, so it can be difficult for people to get like abstract meanings of words, or especially giving yourself understandable messages. So it's hard to give yourself aha moments, because if you could do it, you wouldn't need the aha moment. You would already know how to do it. So it's more about setting up the right conditions, and this is how I got fluent in Japanese, like thinking about kind of a bit more structured example, like English is useful for trying to get examples of things, but it might not help you understand when something is being used or what the meaning of it is. Like usually you would have to find maybe some broader context of a word. So if you're focusing on a particular example, don't only use English. You could also ask like ChatGPT, like, give me some examples of this. I made a ChatGPT video which teaches you how to get examples, how to get like these kinds of aha moments. So it's a specific prompt that I made that you can put in ChatGPT, and it will teach you whatever that vocabulary is. So it will help you understand it like a native, and it will be more effective even than English. So English is good for finding examples and also seeing maybe the broader context where you might like have those examples, and also for getting the pronunciation. So if you feel like you're only learning from easy teachers and you want to get a wide range of native examples, without having a program like Fluent for Life, English can help you with that. But if you're looking for understanding, ChatGPT can be very useful for that if you give it the right prompt to help you understand things like a native. If you just ask what something means, it might just give you either a translation or a definition. So I wrote a very specific prompt for that. So just search my YouTube channel for ChatGPT, and it will give you that specific prompt. You can just get it right from the description of the video. Let's see here. All right, C says, I am struggling to reduce using translation, especially if it's a very new language. Lacking vocabulary is my biggest concern, because without it, I can't even catch what the conversation is about. It could be your problem is a lack of vocabulary. Maybe if you're actually, like if I'm learning basic English and then I go to I don't know, some conversation where there's a bunch of doctors using difficult vocabulary I don't know, then even as a native speaker, I would have trouble with that. But for most people, actually just having an everyday conversation is usually not that difficult. And the problem is not how many words you know, like the specific vocabulary you have, it's just how certain you feel about using the vocabulary. So I would get more examples, feel more certain and confident about what you're using rather than trying to look for more vocabulary. So remember, or if you're just joining us, go back and watch the part of the video, I don't remember what time it is, where I talk about the English fluency or English fluency profile. So this just makes the point that often people have a good vocabulary, like looking at your reading and the various comments you've posted, I don't think your vocabulary is the issue. So maybe it could be, but it probably isn't. Alan says, hi Drew, nice beard with it. You look tough and tenacious. Yeah, I was kind of lazy and I didn't have a lot of time today. I was just like, all right, let me just clean this up so I don't look, I don't know, like homeless or something. You know, I want to, and I thought it would be kind of cool. Like I'm talking about 1863, maybe I can do something, I don't know, more different or whatever. Brittany says, oh great, I got an aha moment. If you could see my aha face expression, you totally erased my doubt. Yes, that's the idea. So you don't have to speak to erase the doubt. Again, like I'm trying to make this as simple as I can Certainty is the foundation of communication. If you don't feel certain, you won't speak. You could speak, but you probably won't feel very confident about it. That's the whole point. So certainty comes first, then you feel confident, and then you speak. All right? You can try to do that in the opposite order, but it will probably be more difficult for you. I would like to stop overusing words or expressions like "in my case" is a problem for me. Every time someone asks me about preferences, I start saying "in my case." Well, just start using something else. Sometimes we have a habit of using vocabulary, and you have to push yourself a little bit to use something different. But you could also use that in the conversation to highlight that. So if you say "in my case," wait a minute, you know, I always say "in my case." What's a better way to say that, or another way to say that? And then you just have a quick conversation where you involve the other person in helping you improve your fluency. So I say, yeah, like I always say, like I always do things, and especially language learners, you're learning a new language and you get these things that you often say. And if you're trying to break out of that, then it's, instead of making it an awkward thing, you just help the other person like enjoy that part of improvement with you. And most people will do that. So if you say, you know, I always, like in my case, or, you know, something like that, and you just say, you know, I always say that. I'm just thinking about it right now, but what's another way to express that? And people would usually give you, you know, like, oh, you could say this or that or whatever. So that's a way to retrain your brain to not use things like that. Let's see, Ismail says, hello. Menelin says, Drew, what do you think about in spite of, despite, although, and even though? What do I think about those? What do I think about, like, in spite of, despite? I don't know, I think they're great. What's your question? All right, Brittany says, so is it possible to learn more complex grammar with your methodology, like very advanced grammar? Yes. So you can learn anything with this. Again, think about how a native would learn grammar. Like my children are learning English grammar in English, and they're learning Japanese grammar in Japanese. I'm not using Chinese to teach my kids English or Japanese. I'm teaching them English in English, and you know the same thing like teaching them Japanese in Japanese. So the idea is like this works for everything. So it's not just how I'm learning individual words or grammar or something you can see. You can hear me telling stories or giving examples. It makes the whole language a lot easier. But let me give you another example. This is, I've told this story before about going to a coffee shop, a cafe here in Japan, and sitting near the cash register. So I got in, usually, especially when I first came to Japan, I liked being around, like listening to Japanese, but I was really shy about speaking because I couldn't speak anything really when I came to Japan. But I liked being in that environment. So I would go to a coffee shop and, you know, like just get a drink or something, and I couldn't really speak very well, and I would just listen to other people. And so one day I was sitting near the cash register, and I just start listening to the different people ordering food, and I can just sit there for a half hour. I'm pretending like I'm reading a book, but I'm really just listening to how people order food. And so it's like I get to hear different intonation, different ways of expressing things, different ways that people might, you know, return or reply, various sentences or sentence structures, all of that. That's not just getting me fluent in vocabulary, it's getting me fluent in the situation. So I'm learning how do people speak in this situation? What are the kinds of things they say? And so that works with grammar. It works with preparing yourself for the unpredictability of real life. So all of those things, like everything I do, this one idea of getting certainty, it works for everything. So it's not just basic vocabulary, it's for everything you might want to learn. And that's why you can watch YouTube videos. You don't even need to learn with me, but you can see lots of examples that can give you aha moments about all kinds of things. And that's why in Fluent for Life, we actually just, the whole point is just to make the structure of it very simple and quick. So we want to systematize how you learn, to deliver those messages as quickly as possible. You can get things like listening to one person describe something and then listening to another person describe it, but it's kind of rare and difficult to find that in real life unless you have a situation like people checking into a hotel or people ordering in a restaurant or people, you know, just like the typical kinds of things that people say. But as you get those examples, it makes you feel very confident about whole situations and how you would express yourself fluently in those things. So that's how I became fluent in Japanese. It was listening not to an individual teacher tell me something, but actually just beginning with words and then getting more examples from grammar, pronunciation, and how people deal with whole sentences. So I learn even basic things like a Japanese guy is kind of stretching. He's like, "Yes." People don't say that in English. Like nobody says "Yes," like that. Those kinds of things, children mimic that, and I mimic that in the same way. So if I'm like I get surprised, I'm like "Bikkuri shita," like "Bikkuri," like the same way a Japanese person would say it, because I learned in this situation, this is a way of describing it. All right, so these are, and again, like when you're learning it from a typical lesson, you usually learn one way of expressing yourself, rather than here is a whole range of different things I might say, where some people, like they're ordering food at a restaurant, some people are more polite, some people are more casual, some people have a really good, eloquent way of speaking, they're very clear, other people are just, you can't really hear what they're saying. And even the Japanese people are like, what was that? Like, what did you say? And so when you hear those examples, that's what gives you fluency. So this works for everything, because it has to work for everything. Otherwise, if it did not work, then you would not be able to get fluent in your native language. You would be stuck at learning some basic grammar, but not more difficult things. Okay, so it has to work. This is how you got fluent in your native language, although I don't like saying that, because people think like, well, now I got to learn like a native speaker, and I'm not a native speaker. It's just like, it's all just vocabulary and making sure you understand things. It's not a complicated thing. It just becomes complicated when you use traditional methods like learning through translations. That actually causes more uncertainty. That's what makes it difficult for you to speak. All right, so he says, I've been studying Japanese for 2 months, sir, and I have so much trouble in understanding the way they speak without breaking down rules or grammars, which is I learned like school time. Yes, and so it's difficult for you to try to teach yourself like a native, to try to give yourself understandable messages and aha moments and fluency triggers, like all the kinds of things I talk about, because you don't know the language. But if you can look for, it's not about like getting specific examples, but knowing how to create those kinds of examples, like the example before about pick up versus pick. So I know how to create those examples, which is why I can get people fluent very quickly. But if you're trying to do it by yourself, you need to make sure you're going down to a very low level that you can understand, which is why I still watch even children's shows. Like I watch Okasan-toi's show in Japanese. So this is a show for like 2-year-old kids in Japanese, because there's actually a lot of interesting vocabulary and music and culture and things like that that I can learn. So as my kids have grown, I've grown with them, watching the same kinds of TV shows. So now we watch maybe some older, like anime or something like that, but the same idea is there. If I can't understand something, I should go back to a lower level where I'm still getting the input all in Japanese, but that's giving me certainty. All right, so make sure when you're learning something, if you're having to translate everything, it means you're at too high of a level. So go back to the basics, make sure you can understand. And Brittany again, so it's not necessary to learn by heart the name of grammar, tenses, past perfect, past continuous, etc. If you ask a native speaker, if I go outside, if I were in America, I am not, but if I were living in America and I say, just like have a microphone with me and ask people, hey, give me an example of the present perfect. Nobody would be able to do that. Nobody would. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 people, but even college educated people are like, what is that? It's like, it's kind of like asking people, how does a toilet work, even though they use a toilet every day. A lot of people can't really explain the physics behind it, but they're able to use it anyway. So, and this is why I don't spend much time talking about like the linguistic side of language learning and try to give people a lot of difficult or complex grammar terms and uses for things like that. I'm more trying to show you how do we use something, or in what way or in what situation might we use a particular thing. So it's useful to know the names of those things if you want to search for them and get examples, but it's not helpful like in an everyday conversation sense. I don't need to know what grammar tense I'm using to speak confidently. I just use the vocabulary automatically because I'm certain about it. So I, even as a teacher, I'm not like always certain. There are probably lots of linguistic terms I don't know. You know, do I care? No. Because the people I'm helping, they're not looking for what is the name of this grammar point. They're really looking for how can I talk in my interview and express myself well? How can I communicate with my friends and sound natural? You know, those kinds of things. That's the thing they're actually looking for. So focus on, again, what you want, not what you think you need to do for some other reason. Let's see, Bree says, so it's not necessary to, okay, I answered that one already. Murad says, a note for international students coming to States, Canada, academic English is just 30% of the language they use in daily speak. Yeah, I mean, it might even be like, yeah, it's probably less than that. And so the point is not just to know things for that very narrow situation, because if you're living in the United States, you will go out and talk with people and meet people in a range of situations. And that's why, again, I have a range of different people that you learn from in Fluent for Life. So in the same way, Frederick gives you like a range of different examples that you get pronunciation from, a range of different examples that help you understand vocabulary, like different images that help you understand words. So it's more about getting that variety that really helps you understand things like a native, because there are many dimensions to a word. So you might have the word, but then how it's used in different ways, or how you might pronounce it, or if people don't pronounce it clearly. So all of these different ways, if you get exposure to that, you will be very prepared and feel very confident when you're in conversations. All right, Britton says, I want to be a polyglot and interpreter in English, so I should follow your methodology. Yes, I mean, I'm not a polyglot myself because I'm not trying to learn a bunch of different languages. I don't really care about that at the moment. But if I can make a system for the whole world to use English, that's much more entertaining and interesting for me. But yes, I can't think of a faster way to get to certainty in order to speak. The only question is, like, how can you organize the information? It's about the organization of the information, like what order you get things in, just like I gave at the beginning of this video, the snuffed out example. So if you get the figurative example first and then the physical example, it's like, wait a minute, okay, now I get it. But if you do the opposite, it's much faster. That's why when I made my phrasal verb program, I went from figurative uses or physical uses to figurative ones. It's much faster and easier to learn that way. Right, let's see. And Murad says, finding a native speaker friend is the way you can build up the commonly used vocabulary is in real use. International friends won't help to level up as they will probably have similar vocabulary. Yeah, I'm saying that you don't even need to have native speaking friends because there's plenty of content available. The point is not to have, like, you see, I didn't write native speaking friends up here. I wrote certainty. All right, so you can get certainty just like you're watching this video now. If you have understood things better from watching my videos or even just watching this one video, then I've demonstrated that certainty is the key. You're not having a conversation with me right now because even if we are talking, it's really me that's giving you the good input that helps you speak. Like, you're just repeating things that you already know. Maybe you feel a little bit more confident if you use something, but most of the benefit is me saying things to you and you thinking like, oh wow, okay, that's how you say it, and here's how to express this other thing over here. When you're learning those things from a native speaker, you realize, oh, I don't actually need to have a conversation to do that. I can watch two natives speaking to each other. And though like two natives speaking to each other are going to be even better because they're not going to be trying to make their speech easier for me to understand as a non-native. So if when I first came to Japan, I can be standing, like, let's say it's like, here's me, here's like, you know, two Japanese people. If they're talking to me, they're lowering their level of Japanese. They're making an effort to speak simply so that I understand. But as soon as they start talking to each other, it's like, blah, blah, blah. They're going very quickly and using language that I don't know. Like, again, I'd rather just have this. So I can sit and watch different people talking and learn a lot and become certain about the language without speaking, okay? So even before I say a word, I can feel confident about things. And then when I do speak, then I can impress people with vocabulary that they didn't expect me to know, that kind of thing. All right. So again, you don't need an international friend. You don't need a native friend. You've already got lots of examples. On YouTube, there are millions of videos that could give you information about anything you like. Go watch them. Okay? It's that simple. All we do in Fluent for Life is make sure we're giving you these messages as quickly as possible. We want to systemize the process of getting certainty so you feel confident, so you speak. That's the idea. All right, it looks like we got to the end of the video. I did it. Fantastic. All right, it's already, oh my goodness, 11 o'clock in the morning over here on Thursday, Japan time. Hopefully you all have enjoyed this. If you have, do click that like button. Do share the video. And if you would like help, again, the thing we do in Fluent for Life, it's really getting you fluent. We do the hard work for you. So you don't have to go out and find a bunch of examples and think about what you're going to learn. You just get the certainty you need in order to speak. And then you can, if you like, we show you how to meet people to practice speaking with, like people who actually really want to practice speaking with you. And it's not even just practice speaking, just having native English speaking friends, we show you how to find those people as well. But that's really the kind of end part over here. So if you're not feeling certain at all, don't worry about speaking. Get lots of good examples that help you feel certain about the language. Certainty gives you confidence, and confidence lets you speak. All right, have a fantastic day. Again, click the like button. You can click on the links in the description. Definitely get Frederick, even if you are an adult who already knows a lot of English. You will be surprised by what you learn and how fun it is and how actually quickly it improves your speaking. All right, Brittany says, I will get your course one day. Mark my words. Well, consider them marked. I have marked them in my brain right here. Have a fantastic day. Share the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.